I should put that on my tombstone. Like someone in middle school wanted my haircut, and
That's right.
it's good. It's good.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled as always to be here with you. I've just finished a brilliant interview, brilliant because of the guest, not me, with Mr. Andy Ross from OK Go. Now, some of you out there are absolutely going to be familiar with OK Go. They are renowned, amongst many other things, including their amazing music, for the incredible videos that they do. And please do, if you're unaware of OK Go, check our show notes. We'll link to some of the more iconic ones, although they're all worth checking out. It's hard to overestimate how much complexity is in these videos, the amount of planning and effort. Now, we don't talk a lot about that because the music alone stands up incredibly well. But so we talked to Andy about his career with OK Go, his musical upbringing, his side projects, and a lot more to his perspective on music more broadly. So a lot to enjoy. I'll let you jump in and I'll talk to you after the show. Andy, sir, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I particularly appreciate the time you're taking because I believe you've just had a heavy day of rehearsal.
Yeah, we're about to hit the road next week. Our first shows, I mean, really, it's our first shows in years. We did do a few dates last summer. So I almost don't count those because it was four and it went by really fast. But yeah, we have a new record now, and so these will be like the first like real dates of the new record. And yeah, we have to like learn how to play our music, which is challenging.
Absolutely. And have
So
you have
yeah.
you have you missed it, Andy? Do you miss the live playing? Where is it one of those grass is greener on the other side things that you miss it when you're not doing it?
Yeah, definitely. Touring it is really challenging. And especially when you're doing longer runs, the first 2 weeks are always great and the shows are fun. And then, as it drives on, the shows are always fun, but, everything else about touring starts to suck. And then, when you do a whole record cycle, you're ready to not be on tour and not go into a rock club for months. This one, after our last record, you know, um, I don't know if you noticed about this. We make music videos for some of our songs, and they take a long time. So, our last record, we made a bunch of videos. Those took months. We toured a lot. Then we did another show where we live scored the music videos. We played in like sort of nicer rooms, more performing arts centers. And um, so we did that for a few years. Then I had kids and Damien had kids around the same time. And then there was this pandemic. I don't know if you remember that moment. So we sort of, it's really our first record in 10 years. And we have been doing stuff, but we also haven't really been, fully active. So it's good. It's good to be back. We're really excited to play shows. We're really excited to play shows, and we're hoping to get down to your neck of the woods next year, and we're looking into that specifically. So,
Superb.
um,
Very excited. So, I mean, as you mentioned, you're about to do, I think it's 20 something, close to 20 dates around the US over the next couple of months. What is the rehearsal process after so long? Because that's not easy, let alone you've got a new album to learn to play.
right, yeah. There's some. I mean, there's a whole gear discussion there, and we're still getting that set up. We're mostly using, software instruments. It's just the easiest thing to do. And we have Kemper amps for guitars, which is also easy to do. But, we've got to build all those sounds from the record. Um, some of that is, we can use the same stuff we were using in the studio, but some of it is analog. And so, are we going to use an instrument from a library, or are we going to sample it? So we do sample a lot. Sometimes we've worked the last three records with Dave Fridman, the producer who's done, Flaming Lips, MGMT. He creates like the most incredible sounding stuff. So sometimes we just want to sample an instrument that we've recorded there. So, that just takes time, and we're going through that. In terms of like learning the songs, some of the songs I will be able to play when I'm dead. We've played so many times, and it's just like there are neural networks in my brain that are like concrete at this point. And then the new stuff, a lot of our recording and sort of writing process is really like in Pro Tools. Like we there's we'll come up with something on a guitar or a keyboard or piano or something, but that's like the very first step. And once we start getting it into Pro Tools, the first bits, the first demo, we're really building in there, and so we're layering on top and building in there. So I think it comes out great, but then we have to learn how to play it. So, sometimes we get a little help from the computer to come up with some parts, and then it's like, oh my God, I just came up with this two-handed keyboard part that sounds great, but now I have to play this in front of people. So it's we're in it right now. We're in it right now,
Yeah.
but it's fun. It's fun. It's tiring. It's fun.
And so and we're definitely going to talk about the album. Just as far as how do you think your rig is shaping up for this tour? So you mentioned you quite understandably use lots of soft synths and so on. So what's your go-to rig with OK Go that you tend to work up?
Yeah, so we'll probably play everything out of live, and it'll, mostly we'll use a lot of native instrument stuff. So it works well, and Contact we can sample, or we can use whatever packages they have, third party packages, all sorts of things like that. So we use Massive a lot. We do have some sort of more analog synths that are in there, and some special stuff here and there. I mean, that's basically the package. And yeah, it's for live, what people don't know about Spinal Tap is that it's a documentary, and it's not actually a fictional movie. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. For us, we just want the thing that's going to work every night and sound great. And that's usually where we are.
And with Ableton Live, so do you have redundancy as far as a second backup rig to run the show?
We do, yeah. So we used to have like, two, audio interfaces and a DI box that would, fail over to the other one. But there's a new device called a Play Audio 1U or something like that. I can't remember the name of the company off the hand. It's one audio interface that two computers plug into. And so, it will handle all your MIDI ins and outs, distribute them to both computers. And there's one set of basically outputs that it'll fail over if the computer fails over. It's an awesome piece of gear, because it took our keyboard rig playback unit from this like huge rack. It's like literally it can fit in one rack space.
Wow.
And there's others like cables and things like that you can put in there, but it's so far it's worked. In the 4 shows we played last summer, it worked. But it's an impressive piece of gear if anyone's listening that needs something like that. It works great.
No, excellent. And what controllers are you using when you're actually doing the playing?
We basically have we're just using like M Audio controllers.
Yep.
They're just MIDI controllers. There's not much anything special going on there. I mean, we'll go through a few of those in a tour, because they're they get banged up, and then that's another thing about being on the road. You need stuff that you can just replace. Yeah.
No, that's great.
That's it.
And let's talk about the latest album, and The Adjacent Possible. And I've talked about it in the intro, Andy, but it's an amazing album, and the diversity, like always with OK Go, is huge. I mean, as you've already mentioned, you do some highly digital stuff. There's some beautiful electric pianos vibes and stuff. Just tell us about the approach to the album and the role you played as far as working up the songs and your sound choices and so on.
Yeah, I mean, we really were winding down the last record, and that live video show that I mentioned before in about 2018, 2019. So that's really when we started working on a lot of these songs. COVID really sort of blew a hole in the middle of that. We had gotten about 6 to 7 songs in a good spot, and then we really stopped. We took the shelter in place stuff pretty seriously, and no one was really in the mood to work on stuff. And it really took, 2021 is when we sort of opened things back up. And the break actually was kind of good because we were able to look at all the songs that we had started and be like, oh, now it's a little fresh. We know where to go with a few of these things. So that's where we were then, and we started. So we started finishing the song back up 2021, 22. I don't know if how much you know about the band, and Damien, our lead singer, he directed a movie in 2022. It's called The Beanie Bubble. An Apple movie. It was big movie, big movie stars in it. Um, and so he was sort of I'd say the record was like 75% done at that point. And while he was working on the movie, Tim and I, the bass player, we would go to his studio every day and we'd be working on stuff. And so there were sort of these parallel things all happening. And then in 2023 and 2024, we got all the songs where we liked them, and we started mixing them with a few different producers. We had, this guy, Claudius Mittendorfer, amazing mixer. Tony Hoffer, we were before. We had Dave Fridman mix a few songs, and we were really like where all the songs were going, but we realized that they were all starting to sound like different things. And last year we decided, we've worked with Dave Fridman for the last two previous records. Let's go to him for one final like mixing session. He'll, we believe strongly that he would be able to tie all the loose ends and pull it together. And I think he did a great job, and we're super happy with it. And yeah, I mean, appreciate the compliment on the record. We're really happy with it. I feel like it's really. I feel like we sound like the music we hear in our head. And not that it wasn't like that way on the other records, but, I think that we were maybe trying for certain different sounds on other records and experimenting with a few things. And I think that a lot of the songs in this record are just, we wrote it, we like it, and we just followed the song into like what it was. And I think it's a little mixtapey. I think it kind of goes all over the place, which, we liked that. I think, if you listen to a Beatles record, they're all over the place. And I kind of like that kind of album. And so yeah, thank you. I think
it's absolutely amazing album. And I think you're right. The mix has brought it all together. It's got huge diversity and depth, but sort of links together really well. I mean, I've probably, of all the songs, Fantasy versus Fantasy is one of my favorites, but there's just, it's wall to wall great music. And I mean, you alluded to the videos, Andy. Obviously, those that already are aware of you are likely to be aware of you because of the videos, and we'll certainly be linking our listeners and viewers to those. But you mentioned the logistical process with that is enormous, and you've released new videos just in the last couple of weeks. I imagine that's actually more intensive in a lot of ways than the actual recording.
The videos. Yeah. Although I wouldn't underestimate our ability for perfectionism on the recording side. I do. You mentioned Fantasy vs. Fantasy. I want to go back one more because there's a part of the process that I omitted, and this is a keyboard show, so I should mention it. Sort of in the last few months before we mixed the record, Damien, when he did his movie, he did a lot of the film scoring at this studio called Bandrika here in Los Angeles. And they have an old like 1920s theater organ from the era where they would, it would be silent movies. So they'd have a live organist do basically all the audio for the movie. And so, this was like his baby, and, I mean, it's enormous. It's like the size of like a gym. And the sound was so incredible that we wanted to get it on there. So we brought this guy, Mark Herman, and he's one of the like best theater organists in the world. He does live shows where he'll live score a silent movie, now.
Wow.
And so we just wanted to we just opened up a session with him and, told him the key, and we're just like, just play stuff. And, those theater organs are incredible. There's so many different sounds that they can come up with. It's like pipe organ. And then, I mean, you can do like even a Rhodes sound. There's all this crazy, percussive instruments in there. And so in Fantasy versus Fantasy, there you can actually hear a lot of the that
Yeah.
organ in there, and he's that's probably on like four to six songs on the record, and I think that those songs, that organ, and it's this amazing. It's like there's nothing digital about it. It's like the most analog. It's like literally air being pumped through this huge machine. It's really special, and so yeah. To all the listeners out there, go buy a theater
Yeah.
organ. Go buy a 5,000 square foot warehouse and put a theater organ in there and play with it. But yeah, that was really fun to play too, because I mean those things are so powerful, and you just like you feel like you have like a rocket launcher or something that you can play with music to. So yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out to Mark, because he was fun to work with, because he a lot of theater organ is sort of improvised, and so he was a great person to be like, oh no, try something else there, and try like just going crazy with something, and the vibes, do the vibes there, go do a scale there. It was.
That's amazing. So, Mark, we're coming after you as a guest, number one. And number two, I assume you're taking a theatre organ out on the road then, if you're recommending everyone buys one?
Yeah, just got to clear that past management. Might not fit in the trailer.
No, that's amazing. Thank you, Andy. That's brilliant. And so, I wanted to ask you, obviously, with how intricate, either in the video sense, but also these amazing albums and your live performances, has anything ever gone spectacularly wrong for you that you can look back and laugh on it now?
And I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary made about the zero gravity video that we made.
No,
The video came out great,
it did.
and I am super proud of that. The process of that was like one of the most excruciating things that I think have took years off my life. We shot that in Russia, and nausea is not like the right word to describe the feeling that in this thing. And I didn't think that I like roller coasters and thriller rides. I was like, oh, this will be fine. The first time I went up, I was so nauseated that the remaining 20 flights that we went on, I was just in this like perpetual state of anxiety and total terror, that um that feeling would come back and just be there the whole time, and that I'd have it for the rest of my life. So I wouldn't. I don't know if I'm answering your question. It wasn't a failure. It didn't. And in fact, it was one of our great videos. So, but the process was really, really rough, and usually they're more fun. So yeah, so that one pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
As someone who suffers from motion sickness, you have my sympathies, and I can only imagine what motion sickness means in that context. It's another whole level.
It is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And not great, but you know what I mean. I do need to ask, you've already mentioned Mark Herman, but are there keyboard players out there? Well, actually, let's go back to your musical upbringing. So what got you into music in the first place? So let's go back to, all those years ago to your childhood. What got you into it?
Yeah, so I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts. I don't know how familiar you are with second tier cities in the US, but it's near Boston, but it's about 40 miles west of Boston. So musically it was kind of an interesting place to be a teenager. There was like a pretty thriving metal and hardcore scene there, but that wasn't totally my vibe as a teenager. I was really, really into like classic rock, like Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page were like my North Star, and I was really into the Beatles. I was really into Hendrix, that kind of '60s rock. And then I grew up. I was like in high school in the '90s, so that was Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Like loved all the grunge stuff, and it was a good time to be a teenager. But because we weren't like really. We weren't in, all the bands would go to Boston. They would sort of skip Worcester, and I wasn't into metal. So like I didn't like really, you know, go to a lot of like the indie bands that might have been touring in Boston. So, I was really like a classic rock kid until college, where I went to school in New York. And that's when all like I was exposed to more of the indie rock and things like that. But like my bandmates, Damien and Tim, Damien grew up in DC in the 80s and 90s. So like that like punk scene, like the Fugazi and Minor Threat and all that, like he was so steeped in that. And, Tim was really into like, the British and, British stuff in the 80s, like, psychedelic furs and like, Stone Roses, things like that. So, the three of us really do have like a pretty interesting mix of like a lot of stuff that we all still really like. Yeah, I mean, I would say I still, I have two kids now, and I still, every day on the way to school, we all get to pick a song, and I'm still trying to get like Led Zeppelin to work. It has not worked. They still just want to hear like Taylor Swift or Chaperone, which is fine. That's great. That's their right. But I'm still going to play Led Zeppelin, and they're still going to complain about it. So,
Absolutely. And they will
yeah.
learn eventually, I promise you.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And so, as far as the first instrument, as I said, you're a multi-instrumentalist to say the least. What was your sort of first involvement with instruments, and then deciding you maybe like to make a living out of it?
Well, yeah. So, like I said, I love Zeppelin, and I just they're the guitar band, so I had to get a guitar. I had to learn how to play it, and this was like early '90s, so like the internet was not really a thing. But I was sort of a computer nerd, and there were things called bulletin boards, which you dial up you have a modem, you dial up, and it would be like local. It would be like in your area, and like people could put files on there and download files. And on this one server, there were these things called tabs, which it's like an easier notation for guitar players. And a lot of them were wrong. A lot of them were written by, novice guitar players. And, but that was like my first exposure to tabs. Or any kind of like music notation. So I could actually learn how to play the guitar because it was easy to read. And I would just come home from school and play my guitar for 6 to 8 hours a day. It was the only thing I wanted to do. And I eventually ended up learning every Led Zeppelin song, including like most of the solos. I mean, I couldn't play them with like the right feeling or the right, not all the right notes. But it's okay. I mean, Jimmy Page is so sloppy. It's like, whatever. You just have to you just got to kind of feel it, and you're fine with Jimmy Page. But, yeah. And so, that leads to finding other kids at school that also like, bands and music, and, had some awful high school bands, but it was the best thing ever. And that went into college. In college, I got really into classical music, actually. I went to Columbia, and they actually make the part of their core curriculum is you have to take a Western music class. And so, obviously that's a huge portion of that's on classical music and classical period. And I got really into it. So that's when I was like, oh, I should learn how to play piano because I like this. So I started you could take piano lessons from the school. You could take it as a class. And so I started with that. And I've been off and on with sort of classical piano lessons in my adult life. The off is a lot more, a lot more than the on, just because of there's not enough hours in the day to practice. But yeah, I'm a big fan of classical, and yeah, I love playing what I can play in
I
that
have to ask,
regard.
Andy, favourite classical artists? Are there some that particularly float your boat?
Like in terms of composer, or
Yeah, composers, sorry, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to think that anything's happened since Bach. I mean, it's like if it's later than him, do we really need to hear it? So yeah, I mean, I love Bach, and I think like Beethoven's piano sonata catalog is like absolutely incredible. I mean, I always like to picture Beethoven writing some of this stuff. I mean, it just sounds like the most tortured mind ever, but he eventually got to like the most incredible music ever. And I mean, Beethoven really sits like right at the point where things get a little overly romantic for me.
Yeah.
I mean, not to, so much of that stuff is incredible, brilliant. I love it. But Beethoven is like the like the incredible emotion, but not like too much in a bad way.
Yeah. No,
If I said that right.
no, that
So
makes sense. No,
that's
that's
probably where I would where
no, that's great. And I do need to ask about your movement into actually more that full-time work. So I'm also keen for you to mention in passing Secret Dakota Ring, just getting into that
oh.
more full-on band, and then obviously joining OK Go. Sort of what was the transition from school to, wow, I'm actually doing this for a living?
Yeah, so I went to school for I got like a engineering degree as a computer science. I was electrical engineering major, computer science minor. So I graduated, I graduated in a good time for having that kind of degree. So I lived in New York and I worked at a startup in New York, which was great. It was a good job, but I wanted to do music. So I would be in bands in New York on the side. And I eventually quit the job to start a recording studio with this other buddy from Colombia. And we had no idea what we were doing with music production. Like we scraped together to buy like the cheapest Pro Tools rig. We set up in Long Island, like near his house, and recorded like high school bands. We were just clueless, but we had a lot of heart, and we were pretty good musicians, so we could play, bass and drums for people that just singer songwriters would come in. Uh, and so we did that for a while. Like that was kind of like what we did to get by. And the problem is, you're recording other people, which sometimes is not, not the greatest. A lot of nice people. But and around the same time, for personal reasons, I wanted to move to LA. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I was just about to start either looking for another studio job or looking for another programming job, honestly, because I didn't really have anything. A friend called and said, one of the friends that I had recorded in New York called and said, "Oh, do you know that band OK Go? The original guitar player just quit, and they're looking for someone like you would be perfect for that band." And so I was like, okay. And, they were a major league, they were on Capitol Records, and I did the whole audition, and it was me versus like 35 other guitarists, and came down to one on one with this other person. And we had to do like the whole audition in front of like the label and the A&R guy and the PR and everything. And, I guess I got the job. So, that's the path to doing this full time. In a sense, like I definitely um, I had an amazing opportunity presented to me, but the years doing the studio and practicing at home, where I didn't feel like I didn't put the work in.
No, not at all. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do need to mention to our listeners and viewers on a recent Instagram post, I believe you celebrated a birthday around 5 or 6 weeks ago, Andy, and someone posted a comment that they loved you so much in middle school, they took a smudgy photo of you to their hairdresser and asked for the same haircut that you had. I thought that was amazing. That's how well you fitted in.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some good hair moments. I've had some good hair moments. Yeah, that was funny. I mean, that's really, yeah. I should put that on my tombstone. Like, someone in middle school wanted my haircut, and
That's right.
it's good. It's good. I like
Now
it.
I know we've got to let you go in a little while, Andy, but we do have some standard questions. And number one, I feel like you've already done it with Mark Herman, but just tagging a keyboard player. Is there a keyboard player out there that you've always admired that you'd love to hear more about their story?
The going at Led Zeppelin. I mean, John Paul Jones he's
Yeah,
the bass player, but he's a great keyboard player. And some of those songs, I've tried to learn like no quarter, and I was like, I'm not, I don't even, I can't do that. But there's a contemporary classical pianist right now that I absolutely adore named Víkingur Ólafsson.
okay.
Uh, I saw him play. He just did the Goldberg Variations.
Wow.
He just did a world tour playing the Goldberg Variations, it, which I did not see, but I saw him on a previous tour where he was doing a sort of a Mozart program, which Mozart's fine, but it's an hour and a half program, and he came out, and in the program there's an intermission. It says intermission, but he comes out and he says, "So this will be 1.5 hours, no intermission. So I hope you went to the bathroom." And I was like, "Oh my God!" And he played like it was, I don't know, maybe 15. It wasn't just Mozart. He mixed in a few other contemporaries, but it was incredible. And I mean, there's he does arrangements of classical pieces where he'll sort of modernize them, or he'll play like a classical piece on like an old upright piano that's kind of beat up, so it's like a little bit out of tune, and it just sounds really cool. He has an arrangement of a Bach organ sonata. I think it's the E minor one that is like so emotional. It's like incredible. I really
No, I
so
love
I
it.
would definitely recommend him if classical music's at all your thing. I would check him out. He's incredible.
No, we definitely will check him out. Thank you. And I do need to ask you too, just from a personal creative output, I assume that you're still writing the odd song yourself and, do you have plans of anything personally putting out outside of OK Go?
I mean, I've had tentative plans to put out a another solo record. I think the last one was 2008 or something. There's a lot of songs that are close to finished on my computer, but it's yeah, I mean, always writing for the band, and hopefully there will be another record at some point.
Yeah,
But I
great.
appreciate you bringing that up.
No,
Yeah, appreciate it.
no, very happy to. And now we have the dreaded desert island discs question, Andy. So if you had to pick 5 albums to take to a desert island, what would they be?
Oh my goodness, five. Okay, well, I would definitely. I'm only going to give myself one Led Zeppelin record, so
Yeah.
it'll probably be Led Zeppelin 2, because I think that has the best riffs. Does a box set count?
Yeah, you can get away with a box set. That's fine.
All right, I would do the Richard Good Beethoven Piano Sonata collection.
Nice.
I have to do a Beatles record. So, I mean, that is a really, really tough one.
We have had people choose the Beatles box set as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's a cheat. I can't do that. I can't do that. Because, Beethoven didn't write albums.
That's right.
So, we got to kind of put them all in. Let's see. I would probably do Revolver. Man, that's such a tough one. Do you have a Beatles record?
Yeah, look, Revolver of the White Album. I'm a bit of a fan of Let It Be for some reason as well.
Interesting. Did you watch the
Yes,
full
all
thing?
8 hours of it. Yep.
It was so great. It was so great. Like it was so boring, but so not boring at the
Yes.
same time. Yeah, that was so fun. Yeah. I probably still go with Revolver. That's three. Let's see here. I mean, I do have to do something from the 90s. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball in here. I'd probably do the first Rage Against the Machine record,
Nice.
because I think that is an album of like incredible guitar riffs.
It is.
And yeah, there's the guitar playing in that is great. And then I think I'll go back to classical for my fifth choice. We're a four, right? I'll go
Yep.
back to
Yep.
classical, and if I had to pick something from Bach, it would probably be the Brandenburg concertos. I'd
Nice.
probably want those. But
Great
that's a
picks.
tough one too, man. Man, yeah. So
Yeah, and we're not even getting into performances of those pieces. So, no, I understand. No, I appreciate that. Good picks. Our last one, Andy, is actually a 10-parter. So we call it the Quickfire 10 short and sharp questions. So first album you actually recall hearing as a child or whenever that had a real impact on you?
recall hearing Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction,
Yep, there you go. It was around.
which is an interesting thing to hear when you're like 5 years old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before a gig, what's your most important ritual? What do you need to do to feel sort of settled before you go on stage?
Good question. I like to stretch out. I like to stretch out backstage and just sort of get my shoulders and arms relaxed.
Yeah, great. I think I know the answer to this one based on your qualification, but if you hadn't been a musician, what do you think your career choice would have been?
Yeah, I'd be a programmer. I'd be a
Yeah,
computer programmer.
nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. Favorite tour you've ever done, if that's possible?
Favorite tour? There's a lot of good ones. We did a tour of Brazil once where
Wow.
this is crazy. It was with Jose Cuervo. I don't know who came. I think it might have been Damien from the band that came up with this idea where they'd have this like Cuervo van that would drive into like a really crowded plaza. Because like in Brazil in the summer, all the plazas just have like thousands of people in them, and the front would open up, and we'd be there, and we'd play like 5 songs and drive off, and we did this. So we did this. We did it in like Rio, and we did it in Sao Paulo and some other Porto Alegre or some or whatever. People were like so confused because, like, I'm sure like some people knew who we were, but a lot of people in Brazil had no idea who we were, and they're where he'd have this. We're wearing these like white suits and playing rock music in the middle of the street. That was really fun. Touring Japan is always like so
Yeah.
fun. Great fans, and like the crews over there are so great. They like measure out where you put your amp on the ground, and it's always in the right place. Yeah,
I think Brazil and Japan are great picks.
yeah, those are good. Those are fun.
And is there a most memorable gig? Again, a big call, but is there one gig that really stands out for you that you constantly do go back to?
We played a festival in South Korea that the crowd was huge, and they were just like so excited, and like they knew all the words, and it was super hot in the summer, and it was so fun. And yeah, that was really, really great. I'll go with that. I think it was the Pentaport Fest in South Korea. It was a great show.
Great one. Name a song that you used to love, but you've now played it to death, so would happily never play it again.
An OK Go song?
Oh, yeah, whichever.
Or a song I've listened to too much.
Yeah, anyone that you've played, yeah.
Yeah, one of the songs we played in our set is called "Do What You Want," and
Yep.
we've played it every show that I've been in the band, and it's a really fun song to play. It's a rocker. That is like the song I'm referring to, and I said I'll be able to play it
Yes, that's
in the
right.
grave because it's so burned in there.
Just a supplementary question, though, as a player myself, even with songs like that, have you ever had those doubts in the lead up to counting in where you go, I can't remember how to play this?
Oh, of course. Yeah, totally. We've had it with, Here It Goes Again is sort of like our
That's
biggest
right.
song, the one that was in the treadmill video. And we've screwed that song up more times than any other song. And it's one of the simpler songs too. I mean, it's like a 4 chord song, and like we'll just be in the middle and someone will mess up, and then we'll be like, wait, where were we in this song? Yeah, no, totally that it happens on those more because you're paying attention less
That's
because,
right.
if a song is hard and you haven't played it as much, you're going to be paying attention more. So yeah,
Exactly. No,
definitely happens.
that's a great encouragement for the rest of us. Favorite music documentary or movie? Do you have one that you sort of, you've already mentioned Spinal Tap, not as a documentary.
As a documentary, yeah. I'll go back to the Beatles one. I really liked
Yeah.
that. I mean, the fact that it was so long, you really got to get in there. Yeah, that one was great.
Was amazing. Name one thing you'd like to see invented that'd make your life as a keyboard player easier.
Oh, that's a great question. One thing
It
what would
sort of
make my
sounds
life as
like
a
for you it's
keyboard?
already been invented, Andy, and that the unit you mentioned before that has the failover in a nice, beautiful little rack, it doesn't get much better than that.
That one definitely helps. I'm trying to think I mean, I can't invent like AI in my brain that makes me play better, right? That goes
Yeah,
against
can
the
invent
rules.
that. Look, no, you could do that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll go with that.
Great.
I wish I was a better player. I'm sure everyone does. I'm sure I did. But
Absolutely.
the amazing thing about keys and piano is like you really can create an incredible amount of music. With a guitar, you're really both your hands are working on the same note, 99% of the time. Whereas, with a keyboard, with a piano, you've got it all right there. And so I just wish I was better. I wish I was a better player. So yeah, that invent a brain that's better at this. That's what I'm gonna invent.
I would definitely buy that. And last but not least, Andy, favorite non-musical activity or hobby? What keeps you sane outside of music?
Well, I'll do the pre-kids and the post-kids because you
Yes.
got to say the kids. It's got to be the kids, right? And it is legitimately the kids. But I'm kind of a golfer. I like golfing,
Yep.
and I realized that I was because it is such an infuriating, stupid game. Like, why do I do this? I realize it's the only thing I do where I'm outside for 4 hours and I like don't
Yeah.
look at my phone. And so it's like, I don't even know if I like this thing. I like just being in the state of mind that's not so connected to a screen and I'm outside.
Yeah,
So
great point.
yeah, that's I'll go with that.
No, excellent. Andy, I can't thank you enough for your time. I said, particularly after a hard day of rehearsing, we're thrilled to see you out on tour. By the time our viewers and listeners are watching this, you'll be sort of at least halfway through the tour. But if you do get the chance, definitely go and check out OK Go. And I'm trying not to get too excited about you may end up down under, Andy, but can't thank you enough for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. And yeah, we really want to get down there. We have great fans down there. And yeah, I can make a 99% promise we'll be there in 2026.
And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Andy. It was certainly amazing talking to him. I've been a fan of OK Go since pretty much they started the treadmill video he mentioned. As I did say in the introduction, do check the show notes. It's incredible, let alone everything else that's been produced musically and visually since. So again, thank you for listening, and enormous thanks to Andy for his time. I do hope we do catch him down under. It'd be lovely to see him. Big shout out to our gold and silver supporters, the wonderful Mike Wilcox at Midnight Mastering. If you need some great mixing and mastering services at a reasonable price, Mike's the guy, midnightmastering.com. The amazingmusicplayer.com forums, Dave Bryce and the team there. If you do like talking keyboards in a forum style like I do, definitely jump in there and have a look. The wonderful Tammy Catcher from Tammy's Musical Stew. Thank you so much, Tammy, for your ongoing and long-term support. It's greatly appreciated. And last but definitely not least, the wonderful Dewi Evans from the sunny land of Wales. Lovely to have you on board as always, Dewi. Most importantly, thank you to all of you out there for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, and until then, keep on playing.